Hello people. I hope you remember what all we studied in the last lecture about microorganisms being our friends. Today, we will see how they can be our foe. So, do you people know how these microorganisms can be our enemies? If don't, then do not worry. This is exactly what we are going to decode in this lecture. So, before moving forward, let's see the session plan for this lecture. So, firstly, we will see that how can microorganisms be harmful. Then, we will see what are communicable diseases. After that, we will go to the topic of diseases and we will see what are their carriers and the mode of transmission. Then, we will look at prevention of these diseases and diseases caused by microorganisms in animals and plants. Finally, we will end the lecture with two very important topics, that is food preservation and nitrogen cycle. So without further ado, let's begin with first topic. That is, let's see how these organisms can be our foe. So firstly, they are responsible for rotting of food, as you can see in the picture. Next, they spread various diseases in plants, animals and humans. So we will look into this topic in a bit depth later on in the lecture. Next is that they are responsible for tooth decay. That is, there are bacteria which are responsible for decaying of your teeth. And lastly, they are the source of disease transfer. Now let's move on to the topic, that is communicable diseases. So communicable diseases are microbial diseases, that is, diseases that are caused by microbes that spread from one infected person to a healthy person through air or water, food or physical contact such as cholera, chickenpox, common cold and tuberculosis. Insects and animals that carry these disease-causing microbes and they transfer them from one place to other are known as carriers. Now some of the examples are, as you can see on your screen, housefly and mosquitoes. Let's see how the houseflies can be a carrier. Let's understand how they transfer pathogens. So a housefly may sit on a garbage, an animal excreta, and the pathogens stick to their body. When they sit on uncovered food, these pathogens get transferred to the food. When someone eats this contaminated food, he or she may fall sick. To avoid this, we must keep the food covered. Now in the video, you can easily see that the housefly first sat on a cookie, and that cookie might contain various microorganisms which are present in the environment. And when the housefly sits on the cookie, the pathogen sticks to its body. And when it goes to another cookie, it spreads those pathogens. So this is how housefly becomes a carrier. Let's move forward to the next topic, that is diseases and their carriers. Now, let's name the carriers of these diseases. As you can see on the screen, for malaria, it is female Anopheles mosquito. That is, it carries the parasite of malaria called Plasmodium. Next, for dengue, we have female Aedes mosquito, and it carries the virus that is known as flavivirus. Now let's understand what are diseases and mode of transmission. So as you can see, there are various diseases such as tuberculosis, measles, chickenpox and polio which occur due to air. Then cholera, polio, typhoid and hepatitis A are transmitted by water. Again, cholera can be transmitted by food, chickenpox by contact and malaria by mosquito. Let's see what are the prevention of air or contact-borne diseases. Now, to prevent diseases that spread through air, we need to keep the patient in complete isolation and keep his or her personal belongings away from others. Vaccination at a suitable age can prevent the onset of tuberculosis, chickenpox, polio, measles, etc. Now let's see how to prevent diseases that spread through water or food. To prevent the spread of polio, cholera, typhoid, and hepatitis A, vaccination is effective. One should also maintain personal hygiene and good sanitary habits and drink boiled drinking water and clean food. You should also eat properly cooked food to avoid diseases like cholera. Now let's see how can we prevent diseases that spread through mosquitoes. So we can stop the spread of diseases caused by mosquitoes such as malaria and dengue by not allowing the mosquitoes to breed. We should keep our surroundings clean and dry and not let water collect anywhere in coolers, tires and flower pots, etc. We should also spray insecticides and use mosquito repellents and mosquito nets to protect ourselves from mosquito bites. Let's segregate the common diseases and microorganisms which cause them now. So as you can see that tuberculosis, cholera and typhoid are caused by bacteria. Measles, chickenpox, polio and hepatitis A is caused by virus and protozoa causes malaria. Now let's see some of the diseases that are caused by microorganisms in animals. So number one, we have anthrax. Now, it's a dangerous disease that affects human and cattle and is caused by a bacterium called Bacillus anthracis. Next is foot and mouth disease in cattle. It's caused by a virus called foot and mouth disease virus, FMDV or picornavirus. On the other hand, there are diseases that are caused by microorganisms in plants. Microorganisms can cause diseases in plants and reduce the crop yield. The plants can be protected by using chemicals that kill these microbes. Some common diseases in plants caused by microbes are citrus canker, that is caused by bacteria and spreads through air. Rust of wheat is caused by fungi and spreads through air or seeds. Yellow vein disease of okra or bhindi and it's caused by the virus and spread through insects. Now let's move on to the topic of food preservation. Why do we need food preservation? We need to preserve food because microorganisms that grow on food can sometimes produce toxic substances which are poisonous to us. If we consume this spoiled food, we can become seriously ill or die. Hence, we need to preserve food from being spoiled. Next, let's see what are the common methods for food preservation. Firstly, we can use common salt. Then we can use sealed airtight packets. We can use sugar. We can also use oil and vinegar. And in hot and cold treatments, we can either boil the liquid and drink it, like for example in case of milk, or we can refrigerate the products. Now let's move on to the last topic, that is nitrogen fixation. Nitrogen constitutes about 78% of our atmosphere. In living organisms, it's found in proteins, nucleic acid, chlorophyll and vitamins. Atmospheric nitrogen cannot be used directly by plants and animals. It gets fixed either by lightning or natural nitrogen fixers. Now, two natural nitrogen fixing bacteria are Rhizobium and Cyanobacteria, that is blue-green algae. Let's move on to the nitrogen cycle. As you can see on screen, there is nitrogen in the atmosphere and it's fixed by the bacteria.
This is because plants cannot take up nitrogen in the form of atmospheric nitrogen. They need to be converted into a form which is readily absorbed by the plants. This form is nitrate. The bacteria converts the atmospheric nitrogen into nitrate form, which is absorbed by the plant roots. Likewise, when the plants decay and the leaves fall on the soil, they return the nitrogen back to the soil by the process known as decomposition. I hope you understood this.
Now let's see what are the steps in nitrogen cycle. So there are 5 steps: nitrogen fixation, nitrification, assimilation, ammonification, and denitrification. So let's move on to the steps one by one. First, we have nitrogen fixation. So atmospheric nitrogen is converted by lightning or certain bacteria like rhizobium and blue-green algae into compounds usable by plants. Next, we have nitrification. So ammonia converts into nitrites by nitrosomes and further conversion of nitrites into nitrates by nitrobacter. Plants take up nitrogen in form of ammonia or nitrates. Assimilation. Roots of plants absorb these nitrogen compounds from soil and plants, use them to synthesize proteins and other compounds. Animal feeding on plants get these proteins and nitrogen compounds. Ammonification. When plants and animals die, bacteria and fungi present in the soil converts the nitrogenous waste into compounds that can be used by plants again. And lastly, we have denitrification. Nitrates can be converted into nitrogen gas, which is released back in the atmosphere by certain bacteria, that is, pseudomonas. Hence, atmospheric nitrogen remains constant. I hope you people have understood about various microorganisms and how these can be our friends and foe. You can now go to EduRev, click on Science for Class 8 and the topic Microorganisms, Friend or Foe. When you will go in the chapter Microorganisms, Friend and Foe, you will click on Tests and then you can give all these tests to check whether you have understood this chapter or not. You can unlock all the logged videos, documents and tests of class 8 with EduRev Infinity Plan and ace your exams at less than 80 rupees per month. Thank you.